Hello again, and welcome to Interview with DJ Nocturna. Um, if you're watching my YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, and share. Well, today my guest is electronic artist Colin C, also Slider, also known as Slider. Hey, Colin,
Hey,
how are
it's good to
you?
be here.
Thanks for coming on the show and
Yeah.
educating us. So much I learned about you, and I didn't even realize that I've been reading your mom's cookbook for like years, because the gluten-free goddess. So if
Yep,
anybody's
that's her.
interested, gluten-free goddess recipes. When I started to get more into my health, I've been like watching, like Googling all of these, like what kind of recipes to good, to find and to make and stuff like that. So wow. So I mean, there's so much to say about you and being your dad. Yeah, the screenwriter.
Right, my stepdad, he's written a few screenplays. The last movie he did was Honest Thief with uh, uh, Liam Neeson.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Wow. So anyway, you have your own stuff going on. I know you've been doing music. You're also a sound engineer and all kinds of things, designer engineer. Uh so you pretty much you've worked in Metropolis Records, Cleopatra Records. You've done a lot of remixing for various people, and and of course your project now, which is Slider. Can you want to tell us a little bit about your background? I know I mean I kind of mentioned a little bit, but I know there's more.
Yeah, I got drawn into music like most do at an early age, so it's always kind of been with me for a while. But it wasn't until I was like a teenager that I really discovered like what electronic music was. I had not very much exposure to it other than what people see with the the stuff that's at the top 40, like Miami Sound Machine. That was my idea of what electronic music was until I was in my teens, and I just got really drawn to it from an early age, and I like the aspect of the technology that's involved because I was very much a computer geek as a teenager as well. So the two kind of fit really nicely together, and then from there, I just kind of ran with it. I got involved in the rave scene for a while and was DJing in the early aughts, and that took
Yeah.
me to Los Angeles, where I kind of just established myself, and that's where Slider was born, because I didn't really want to be pigeonholed into making club tracks. They're more disposable, right? You go out, you dance to them, the DJ plays them, you forget about them. The DJ picks new tracks the next week. So I wanted to make it more personal, and I wanted to explore more ideas that were beyond just getting people to dance, and that's how I came up with Slider.
Oh wow. Yeah, I noticed you opened up for Paul Oakenfold, right? In the past.
Yeah,
That's a
back in
DJ.
the
Yeah, that's pretty
in,
cool.
in LA. Yeah, I had a residency. What's called? It might not even be called the Larchmont anymore, but it used to be the Martini Lounge. So every week I was playing there, and then I had
In
connections with
California.
different promoters, and
Is that
so yeah,
in Los Angeles?
yeah, it's
Oh yeah.
like in the Larchmont neighborhood of Los Angeles.
Oh. So
Yeah.
what was your DJ name at the time?
Damage, like DAMNAGE.
Okay, cool. Do you
Yeah.
still DJ? You must
I
do.
don't anymore. So like not to like do a sob story, but when I turned 25, I got hit with an autoimmune disease, and that really sidelined my availability to be as mobile as I wanted to. So
Mm.
I moved away from doing DJing, which was way more physically demanding, and more into a studio rat kind of mode. And I was still working for Apple at the time, so I was Logic certified and got to work with like Danny Saber, who would Black Grape and all the remixes that he did. I was up at his studio a bunch of times, and Charlie Clouser from Nine Inch Nails, he would give me Logic tips. So it was really fun to still have a foothold in music that didn't really rely on me being able to go out and DJ every night.
Yeah, yeah. I know you work with Logic Pro and the Loop Masters, right? That's
Right. Loop Masters is part of my day job is doing sound design. So I've done
oh,
a lot of products for Loop Masters, but also Splice and a few little other boutique sample pack companies here and there. So that's kind of like my day job, is working at my studio where I engineer for other artists as well as make sound packs for different companies.
That's so cool. That's so awesome. Wow. Yeah, it's like a long background of which always helps. And now you got this project called Slider, Slightter, and you released two singles so far. There is Have No Fear, and the latest one, which is called Pulling Me Under, where you're collaborating with the vocals of Craig Joseph Huxtable, who is part of I guess Noise Unit and um the other there's other projects he's involved in. I know with Bill Lieb, Frontline Assembly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Craig's kind of done background stuff for Frontline Assembly and Noise Unit. His big claim to fame up there in Victoria, British Columbia, is Landscape Body Machine, which was 90s kind of, again, no vocals, industrial electronic stuff. But then when he got involved with Frontline Assembly, he met Chris Peterson, and he and Chris formed Alm Electronic. And at that point, Craig was like, I want to get into being, a singer and doing vocals. So was his stepping stone into vocals, and then he and I just kind of hit it off online because we have that mutual Frontline Assembly connection, because I did remixes for Frontline Assembly, and I've talked to Bill a few times, and he was like, I want to do more vocals, and I really like the kind of stuff that you do, so do you want to collaborate? And I said, yeah. So this Pulling Me Under is our third one that we've done. A couple years back we did Lights Out, and that got put into a Fox TV show called Second Chance. So ever since then, we've kind of been running with it. But I really like the way that Craig's vocals have evolved. He's been way more confident in his vocal style now. So the new track, people say like it kind of has a Depeche Mode kind of feel to it, because he's way more emotive with it. And it's not just like that guttural industrial man voice that you kind of get with the trope of industrial music.
So you have a new album that's coming out. It's called the Futile Engine.
Yep.
I'm pronouncing that right. It's coming out July 21st, which is pretty soon.
Yeah.
There's 13 tracks there.
It's 10 core tracks for the album. And then because I teamed up with Brutal Resonance to release it, and we're doing a CD, I can fit more music on there. So I said to Steven at the label, I was like, well, why don't I, we'll make it like a deluxe edition and put extra tracks on there. So I threw 3 more tracks onto that edition.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, and I know some of the artists in there is Yvette Winkler from Vaselyne, right? Yeah. And I don't know, I've done interviews with her and Vaselyne, and it's all on my YouTube channel as well. And of course Bill Lieb and some, there's other guys in there. You want to talk a little bit about I know 2 are released, 2 singles, and there's a few more that we haven't heard yet, but do you want to talk about them a little bit by the time this place is going to be aired? I mean,
well, for example, with Yvette, we both are in this Facebook group that Ken runs called Sound and Shadows. We just kind of hit it off talking, and I've heard some of her stuff with Vaselyne, and I thought, oh, you've got such a really kind of cool, ethereal, smoky kind of voice. Have you ever thought about doing like a club track? And she's like, oh, it's totally outside of my wheelhouse. I don't even know what I would do. And I said, well, let's try it, because I feel like the best kind of collaborations come when you are close enough friends with somebody that you can say like, hey, push yourself, get a little out of your comfort zone, do something, a little new or different. And she's like, well, I'll give it a shot. And her, I got her tracks back in, her vocal tracks, and they just sounded so great. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a very effortless collaboration, thanks to my other friend, Roland, who's there with her, who was able to record her and also work on a little bit of the production of the track. So it was like a nice 3-way collaboration on that track. And that's called Dark Divine, and that will be on the record when it comes out on the 21st.
Divine. Wow, that's a nice Dark Divine. What about the other guys?
Well, for example, Memory Corruptor, that's with Steven Seibold from Hate Department, and Tara from Morgue VVitch, and a very experimental kind of session when I was working on that. But I got this really kind of heavy part going on, and I was trying to scream the lyrics that I wrote, but I didn't really feel like I was nailing it the way that I wanted to. In the back of my head, I'm thinking, I bet Steven at Hate Department can really nail this. And he and I have been friends for a while as well. I worked on the New Ghost album for him, where I screamed on his record. So I thought, oh, let's, tit for tat, you scream on my record now. So I totally just hit him up and said, "Hey, do you have time?" And he's like, "Oh, you got me at a perfect time to do it." So that was really fun to kind of complete the circle and have Steven on my record. And then Craig, of course, he's on there too. I worked with a new artist, Anastasia, out of Portland, Oregon, as Deep Dark Water, and she did a very cool kind of chant for her track Unitas. And yeah, I just really like having fun with friends when it comes to collaborating, and everybody, nailed it really in my mind.
Wow. I'm looking forward to the chant. Wow, that's pretty awesome. Like a chant, really? Wow, that's
Yeah,
cool.
she's really into, I can't even describe the kind of spiritualness that she kind of invokes with the stuff that she does. And it really came out really cool, just because I really wanted the record to kind of go back a little bit to my roots and be more of a techno record, meaning there's more stuff to dance to. It's faster tempos. So I gave her this kind of loose demo that I had done that I really thought, oh, this would be something that somebody could do something very hypnotic to. And I said, do what you want. I don't really tell people like go this direction or go that direction. I just say kind of feel it out and see what you think. And then she hit me back with, again, great vocal stems tracks, and it's really one of my favorite tracks on the record for sure.
Oh yeah, I think I'm gonna like it as well. I just feel that. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So this album is coming out on July 21st, and if people want to find it, of course, I know you have many ways to find it. You have a link tree.
Yeah, I think the link tree is the easiest way, because you just slide our official and then you get to see like all the different, jumping off points if you want to pre-order the CD, which is slowly selling out. I should say there's not very many copies of it left. We just did a strict 50 of them, and I signed and numbered them to make them very, collectible.
Oh wow, that's cool. And you produce this album as well, right? And what about the lyrics?
Yeah.
Who writes the lyrics for the songs?
I do when I feel confident in doing it. Otherwise, I'll like collaborate. If my previous records, I've either taken like, for example, with The Void, which was my record prior to this one, I took on most of the vocals with that because I really had a personal kind of theme that I really wanted to explore with that. But, Rewind, the record before that, Automata, had a lot more collaborations on it. So I really think of it as like, what does the song need? If the song needs me, then I'll put forth the effort. If I feel like the song doesn't really need my voice style, I'll explore different collaborators. So
tell us a little bit about I know you have a self studio where you
yeah, that's where I'm right now.
Oh, is that where you are?
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at it's called the selfstudio.com if people want to check that out. I know you worked with the wonderful Ian Pickering.
Yes, Ian's a good friend. We go back a while now.
Yeah, so he's of course he's the lyricist for Sneaker Pimps, and he's here.
Yeah.
I also did an interview with him. It's up on my YouTube channel if anybody want to check that out. What a nice guy, really nice guy, very talented. Yeah.
So I actually you mentioned the Sneaker Pimps. That's how I got to Ian, because for me, the second album, Splinter, really loved all of the prose involved in the lyrics of that, especially like Destroying Angel I think in my mind has some of the best lyrics ever written for a song, the way that he had wrote those. And me being just a fan, 10, probably even longer than that, I went online to try to figure out, okay, like what are the Sneaker Pimps doing now? I knew Chris was doing IMX, but I was like, all right, what about the other guys? And I stumbled into Ian's stuff, and I literally just as a fan was like, hey, I really love the way that you write lyrics, and we just hit it off. It's just like, because as you said, he's a super nice guy, down to earth. We just had really great conversations. And ever since then, we've just kind of like loosely collaborated when needed. And he, not being as technical as I am, he'll send me his Logic projects and I'll spruce him up. I'll fix the mix for him, get them all nicely mastered and out the door. So
yeah, it's so good to be. It's I mean, there's so many people I meet on these interviews and just meeting people, and then I can see how everybody's so connected together. So great.
Yeah, it's a small world when you're, dealing with this kind of niche of music that's
Sure.
not mainstream. You end up realizing that you're like what, like 6 degrees away from everybody, really, in the end.
Yeah, I know. But I know you come from a long background of I know it's not mainstream, but back in the day also you've been featured in TV shows, right? You were
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky while I was in LA to do that.
I know the Showtime's House of Lies, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that. I know you've done there's some several things here.
Yeah, it started with doing a song for True Blood. That was like 2011, if I remember correctly. That's just luck. I was working with a guy at the time who knew the music supervisor for the show, Gary Calamar, and they have, if you've seen the show, they have a bar. It's called Fantasia, and all the vampires hang out there. So they had a stripper scene in that bar that they were trying to find a song for and couldn't, and asked my friend at the time, like, hey, do you want to work with Colin and make something for this scene? And we said, oh, for sure. Why would we say no? So after we did True Blood, I was approached by a management company for TV Sync, and they said, do you want to have somebody like us, pitching your stuff? And I said, sure, because at the time, getting an income from music is a tricky thing to do, and nobody else was really getting into doing TV shows or film sync. It was like me and Clayton from like Cell Dweller, doing all of these, like, well, sure, we'll do them all. So that's where that started. And I did Bones. I did a gun training montage. I wrote a song for that they really liked. But then, yeah, stuff for NBC, Showtime. I think the funniest one now is that I think it was like a month ago, for some reason on social media, there was a viral Taylor Swift introducing Johnny Depp at the People's Choice Awards a few years back. And what's funny about it is that's one of my remixes playing as his
Oh yeah.
walkout song. So everybody's resharing this video of Taylor Swift and Johnny Depp, and I'm like, hey, that's my song in the background.
So great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how did you get into like this darker genre of music? I know you were mentioning you were DJing, which is a little bit different. Than so how did that come about? More of like the darker side of industrial or electronic.
I think I've always been kind of, gravitated towards it, even as when I was a teenager.
Mhm.
I learned about Wax Trax Records because of Underworld. Underworld didn't have a distribution in the United States. Wax Trax was importing Underworld albums, and when I had discovered Underworld, and I was like, oh, I really like this band. What else does this label Wax Trax have on it? And that was the rabbit hole that fell me down into, like, KMFDM, My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, ChemLab, all of those bands that are kind of known for that industrial kind of genre. And that's always just kind of been in the back of my mind. But even when DJing, I'd always kind of gravitate towards like the more progressive sounds, like progressive breaks and progressive house, or like James Holden is a very influential producer for me, that I would play his tracks, and there'd always be like a spooky or kind of moody element to it. Like, so my sets were kind of geared towards, the late night kind of sound. But
Mhm.
obviously when you're in LA and you're playing weekly, I'm playing all sorts of more, like positive or uplifting stuff as well. But in the back of my mind, it's always just been where I've gone is a little bit more darker, a little left of happy.
Yeah, the dark ones are always the best. You gotta have darkness, right?
I think so. I
To
mean,
be deep.
it,
It's deep and dark, and that's
it's a
what.
way for, especially, people who feel like the world is against them, an outlet to kind of have a place to go and feel firstly connected, and also just like the catharsis that comes along with, darker or moodier stuff. Is
Yeah.
it just speaks to me more than, writing happy, shiny happy songs.
That's true. Yeah, me too. So, how does your family feel about you doing all the darker stuff? I know your mom is like that. She has a great recipe book and all that.
uh my mom's always been supportive. I don't think she really listens to anything that I do. Occasionally, like, somebody like my friend Reagan did a remix of my track Undertow, and he put like jazzy pianos in it, and it's very kind of like a lounge kind of vibe, like. And my mom really likes that one, so she'll play that one the most. But it's funny because I had finished this new album, and I said, my mom was like, "Oh, I want to hear it," and I was like, "I don't know if you really want to hear it. I'm going really dark. There's some really like big distortion on this," and so she's like, "Oh, okay, maybe not so much for me." But I think the funniest story I can tell about my parents was, when you grow up with two creative people, like beyond doing the gluten-free goddess stuff, my mom's a painter as well.
Right, right.
And my stepdad as well are also painters. So they were very adamant that like I go to art school because, like,
Oh, wow, that's
you
cool.
have a lawyer for a dad, they'll be like, go to law school. So my parents were like, go to art school. And that's what pushed me out to California, going to Cal Arts, where I learned that I didn't really want to be a visual artist, and I really wanted to do music full time. So that was like a nice little light bulb that went off. But they're the catalyst that got me out of the house.
I knew they were connected somehow to your amazing projects and everything somehow, your influence somehow. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
for
great.
sure.
And of course, big shout out to Shameless Promotion PR, another amazing artist I meet all the time. So this is your second single, Pulling Me Under, featuring Craig Joseph Huxtable is out now. Which
Yeah.
is was just released a few days ago. And the first single, Have No Fear, has been out for a while. And the album, which is the Futile Engine, which will be out July 21st, and we'll be hearing more of that. I'm looking forward to the to the what do you call that? The artist you mentioned that has the meditation. What is the music?
Oh,
Um,
the Deep Dark Water
the Deep
track.
Dark Water, yeah.
Yeah.
And of
It's
course
called
the
Unitas. We
you.
went with she originally was thinking like, oh, it's because it's the theme is unity. And I was like, well, unity is such a kind of boring word when you look at the track list of the album. So like, what if we made it Latin? Say Unitas. And she's like, oh, perfect. Kind of plays into the kind of spiritualness that she has going on throughout the track. So yeah.
I'm looking forward to playing it. All right.
Yeah.
And this is via Brutal Resonance and Confusion.
Yeah. Confusion Inc. is kind of just my label, I guess. Just a place where I can throw everything that I work on, because it's not just Slider stuff. I do my own, under my own name, some like ambient stuff, some scorey kind of stuff. So I just felt like having a label would be a great way to put it all under something, and that's where Confusion Inc. comes into play. But working with Steven at Brutal Resonance has been great because he's really on top of it for physical stuff. He really wanted to do the CD, and he's been taking care of all that, and it turned out great. It looks great. Love it. So
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the whole album when it comes out and playing it in the show. Uh, Anything else going on or coming up in the near future? Uh,
no, I'm in that mode where the album has been done and I'm just trying to decompress. I'm doing a few remixes. That's another one of my favorite things to do, is I call it fucking up everyone else's songs.
no, that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see all the photos here that you've taken in the press release. I love that photo. Is that you? I don't know. If that's you. That's not you. Oh,
Yeah, it's me. It's a
oh, that's you.
composite,
Okay.
actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. With all the
I
little.
work yeah, I work with my partner. She is really good with visual stuff, and we kind of used a photo that she took plus AI generation and kind of made this cool hybrid version of myself. And I really like that because the idea of Slider is more so a band in the abstract, and I don't really want to be like the face of it per se. I like kind of keeping in the background, like a lot of my promo images, like my face is blurred out, or if you've seen some of my music videos, I'll put stuff over my eyes because I'm trying to distance the physical portion of myself from the art of it. And using the composites like that and using a bit of AI helps me distance myself and kind of create a persona or like an avatar that Slider can be, that doesn't have to embody my physical self.
Yeah. And then that song Have No Fear, there's a dark rave mix. So who mixed
Yeah.
that one? Is that yours as well?
That's me as well. A lot of the times when I'll get done with a song, I'll think of like, oh well, could it be better if it had this kind of vibe to it? So I'm not really as much a revisionist, but I just like to like explore a different kind of style to it. So with that, I bumped up the tempo so it's a little bit more DJ friendly, and that's what got me on this idea of like, oh, it's kind of like a dark rave version. It's like something you could DJ late at night at a warehouse party somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So cool. All right. Well, we're looking forward to the album, The Futile Engine, July 21st. Slider, Colin C. Thank you for joining me on the show, and good luck with the album. I'm looking forward to it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just